All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching. Today we have Tom and Sam from Ocean Collective Media in the Ningaloo Reef in Coral Bay, and they are going to be talking about the amazing Ningaloo Reef, making us all jealous with all of their amazing photos, and how they help with conservation through their photography as well. Okay, before I pass you over to Tom and Sam to tell you more, I'll tell you the technical information in case you haven't signed in before. This webinar will last no more than 1 hour. We're going to have a talk from Tom and Sam, and then we'll take questions. So as audience members, your audio and video is automatically switched off, but we'd love to hear from you. So please put any questions or comments at any time in the Q&A box, which is on the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. And we will get through as many questions as we can at the end. Okay, I will now pass you over to Tom and Sam. Thank you, guys.
But what we're going to talk to you guys today is about Australia's other coral reef. So most of you, I'm sure, have heard of the Great Barrier Reef. Today we're going to talk to you about a reef on the complete other side of the country called the Ningaloo. So we'll run you guys, obviously, where is the Ningaloo and what kind of reef it is. We'll give you a rundown on some of the awesome stuff we see there. So we'll probably focus on the big three, and we'll explain what they are in a moment. But we will cover all the amazing things we get to see out there. We'll run you through what we do as photographers here and some of the more memorable encounters we've had during our time here on the Ningaloo Reef. And then we'll just finish up and just discuss quickly about using photography as a conservation tool. And then obviously if anyone's got any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer any of those.
All right. So just like Sammy said, most of you have probably heard of the Great Barrier Reef, which is on the east coast of Australia in the Coral Sea. Well, the Ningaloo Reef is on the west coast of Australia in the northwest in the Indian Ocean. So it's about 13 hours north of Perth, or roughly around 1,100 kilometres. Now, Perth is considered the most isolated city in the world. A bit of a fun fact for you, but it kind of shows how remote we are. We've got a little photo here of a typical scene from around our way. But very, very remote. We do have actual roads here, but yeah, this is a few dirt tracks kicking around. So as you can see here, we zoomed in a little bit on our region, and the Ningaloo Reef stretches from the northwest cape of Exmouth at the top there, all the way down to what's marked on the map there as Ningaloo, or it's also called Red Bluff. It's roughly around 260 kilometres long, which compared to the Great Barrier Reef is about 10% of the size of the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef is 2,300 kilometres long. So our little slice of paradise is called Coral Bay, and we consider ourselves at the heart of the Ningaloo there, as you can see from our big blue arrow. That's where we live, and that's where we're talking to you from right now. And this is our home. And now, Flossie, you've been here before, you've seen it, and I'm sure a few of you guys have been here before as well, or you might even live here. But this is our hometown. We've only got a couple of roads, a couple of pubs, and it's mainly a tourist town. So very, very small town. We have roughly around 200 to 300 residents in the peak season. But as you can see, there's not a whole lot going on. We're very remote, which we do love very much. And if you can see just off the shore there, I've got my mouse, you can see the reef runs right off the beach. So people of all snorkeling abilities can come and they can snorkel right off the beach. And it's very beneficial for ourselves as well, because the coral just off the shore is very, very, very nice.
Awesome. So what is the Ningaloo? If you go back a slide, as Tom said, you can see there, the coral grows directly off the shore there. So if you literally walk out off that beach, you're swimming straight away amongst some pretty amazing coral. You get turtles, reef sharks, all sorts of fish. It's pretty amazing, and that's right on our front doorstep there. It is a fringing reef. It's one of the largest fringing reefs in the world. So that dark area you can see there, that reef, that extends out about 2 kilometres, after which point we have the reef edge, and it steadily starts to get deeper and deeper until we eventually drop off the continental shelf and you're in quite deep water there. What's special about this place is we're at the convergence of where you get tropical and subtropical reef systems. So although we are over the Tropic of Capricorn we are probably more, well, the reef we get here more resembles a subtropical reef system. So we are getting that mixing of species, tropical species and subtropical species. There is about 500 species of fish that we see here, about 250 different species of coral, and what most people come here for are the sharks. So the Ningaloo area is believed to be one of the best places in the world to come if you want to see shark species. We have some of the highest biodiversity of sharks that you can see anywhere on the entire planet, which is pretty cool. But what most people come here for is the megafauna, or the big three, like I said before. So in a moment, Tom will start talking about those guys, but we'll basically cover whale sharks, manta rays, and also the humpback whales, which we're just starting to see now as well.
All right, so as you can see, we're going to start off with this pretty average photo by Sam of a whale shark swimming in pretty close to Coral Bay. Now, whale sharks are probably the bucket list animal that a lot of tourists come here to swim with in Coral Bay, and we do run tours out of Coral Bay, and they do run tours out of Exmouth as well. Now, a lot of people travel across the world or from around Australia to swim with whale sharks here. We work on board those tours as photographers. And they are very, very, very big animals. So they get to around 12 meters long. And most of the whale sharks that we see on the Ningaloo Reef here are between 4 and 7 meters long. And most of them are males as well. Now, it's not to say that we don't see big females here as well, but most of the ones that we have ID'd over the years are around 4 to 7 meters. So most of the whale sharks that we get are on the outer reef. We do travel pretty far to see them sometimes. They're not always there, but a lot of the time between March and July, we will see them there. That's the peak season. And in the off season, they do occasionally pop up. We do quite often see them come down as far as Coral Bay earlier in the season. And sometimes they even come inside the reef and swim around, as you can see from that photo in the top left corner of the screen. That's in about 5 or 6 meters of water. You also get them further out, so around the 30, 40 meter mark, and as far out as 80 meters. Sometimes we swim with them out there. And you can see from the photo here, they do get quite curious. The big photo on the right-hand side, that's one of our tourism boats coming to pick Sam up, not because he's in danger, but because the whale shark's chasing his bubbles and following him around. So yeah, sometimes they're quite placid animals. They're usually very easy to swim with. But this particular photo, the shark's very interested in his bubbles and quite curious, which is always a good laugh, particularly as a photographer. There's another little shot of one a bit further down. As you can see, there's lots of trevally and small fish that hang out with the whale sharks as well. They're almost form their own little ecosystem sometimes, we do find. And this is a top-down shot of a whale shark. They're beautiful animals, lots of spots. They're like works of art to swim with. We're very lucky to have them up here. Secondly, another very big, powerful animal is the humpback whale. We've just seen these popping up here recently, but we generally get them from the second week of May onwards, and they're on their annual migration up from Antarctica. Up north, they're heading as far as the Kimberley, and they give birth to their calves up here and mate as well. So always very happy to see these guys up here. Over the past 5 years, we have started running tours on the Ningaloo Reef and Western Australia to swim with humpback whales. It's a completely different interaction to swimming with a whale shark. They are very large marine mammals. As you can see, their pec fins are 5 meters long and very, very big. We don't always get this close. As you can see from the image here, I'm backing away with my fin. We stayed very far away from these humpbacks, and they decided to come check us out. Which was quite an experience, but you always get your heart in your mouth when a humpback comes in this close to investigate. And if you don't get in the water as well, you can always see them from the boat breaching, which is quite often how we spot them in the first place. We obviously use a spotter plane as well, but sometimes we can see them from a mile away breaching out the water, and they put on quite a show. So even if you don't get in the water, you can still photograph and see humpback whales doing their thing on the Ningaloo. I think Sammy's going to talk to you about mantas.
Yeah, so obviously Tom's already spoken about the whale sharks and the humpbacks that we see here. Both of those animals are obviously very seasonal, so we only see them during certain times of the year. We are lucky enough, though, here in Coral Bay that we get our amazing manta rays the entire year round. So if you come and visit Coral Bay any month of the year, there's a pretty good chance if you do head out in the water that you may be able to find yourself a manta ray. Where we generally find them is just north of Coral Bay. There's a big sandy bottom bay out there that's called Bateman's Bay. All through that bay is where we generally find those mantas. When we do find them, they're doing all sorts of things. There is several cleaning stations within that bay that we do find them a lot of the time. Other times we find them line feeding, barrel rolling, all sorts of things. We even find them in mating chains sometimes, which is quite cool. Yeah, from anywhere from 3 to 4 to I think 8 sometimes. People have seen huge aggregations of manta rays, which is awesome. This one in particular, she's called Isabel. She's one of the largest and most well-known mantas that we have here in Coral Bay. I think she was first spotted back in 2003, and I've been told to believe that we've pretty much spotted her at least once a month, every month since then. So she's what they call a true resident manta to Coral Bay. She's probably about 4.5 meters across from wingtip to wingtip, so she's quite big, about as big as she'll get. And they believe that she's anywhere from sort of 30 to 36 years old, so she's quite an old girl. She's very used to people, so as you can see on the photo there, she's definitely not shy of the camera at all. If we are lucky enough to get in the water and swim with her, she'll swim right up to you and have a look at you like she's doing here. But yeah, we are lucky enough to see her quite a lot of the time, which is awesome.
All right, so what do we do on the reef? Well, if you haven't guessed it from this lovely photo of Sam, we are underwater photographers. So we own a company or co-own a company called Ocean Collective Media. We've been around here for 4 years. And basically what we do is we work as underwater and onboard photographers on the big 3 tours, so the whale sharks, humpies and manta ray tours. We're here year round, and we have what we think is one of the best jobs on the Ningaloo Reef. I know some people might disagree, but we absolutely love doing what we do. We love having a camera in our hand, and we love seeing these animals every single day. We get to hire people as well, so we get to work with some really, really great photographers over the years. At the moment, we've got Ashley Karras and Emily Ledwidge that are working with us. They stuck with us throughout this whole thing, so it's been really good. So shout out to you guys, and thank you very much. A big part of what we do here as well is we do get in the water and spot the animals first. It's a pretty important job because it allows us to interact with the animals before the tourists get involved. We're very used to them, particularly with manta rays. It can be quite difficult sometimes to get a good interaction with a manta. If a manta doesn't want to be around you, it won't stick around. As I'm sure all of you are aware, they're very fast animals in the water. But sometimes if you treat a manta with enough respect and give it enough time to get used to you, it will come around. And we do see that transition happen quite a lot on our tours. Another important part of our job as well is to do ID photography. So we take photos of the whale sharks and manta rays, which Sammy will talk to you a little bit more about as well. But this is Sammy and I on the job here. So it's me on the left-hand side with the whale shark. So between the 3 boats that work out of Coral Bay, we do pass the whale sharks in between groups onto tourists and photographers. So Sam took this photo when I was handing over the whale shark to him. I should have probably been doing a better job, but it was a glassy blue day, so I'm staring at the whale shark. And the next photo is Sam swimming down next to a green sea turtle as well.
Righto. So as Tom touched on before, we do quite a lot of ID or identification photography. That is obviously both for the whale sharks and the manta rays that we swim with. So with the whale sharks, you can see an example of the ID shot we get there. It's just a photo above the left pec fin. We try and get that of every shark that we swim with out here. So sometimes you might swim with one during a day or during a tour. Sometimes it's sort of 5+, you know, so you can end up with quite a few ID shots at the end of a season. What we do quite regularly throughout the season is we send those ID shots up to Parks and Wildlife. They have a catalogue of all the sharks that we swim with throughout the year, and they get a better understanding of which ones we're seeing over time. And as you can see there, back in 2017, there's about 500 individual sharks that were ID'd on the Ningaloo, and that was all done through the photo ID that all the photographers do. We do the same thing with the manta rays. So in Coral Bay is mainly where we swim with mantas. They do see them in other parts of the Ningaloo, like Exmouth, but in Coral Bay is generally where we see them most days throughout the year. As you all probably know, the ID shot of a manta is just a shot of its underside there. So we try to get that with every encounter we have. Obviously, if we can't do that, any sort of photo that is sort of distinguishing of that manta, whether it's scarring, I think you can see on that top photo there, That one's got quite a hefty shark bite, I think, out of its right pec fin. So any sort of scarring, anything like that, that helps us ID that manta, that's what we're looking for. And again, up to date, there's about 1,150 different mantas that we've been able to ID. And again, that's mainly out of Coral Bay. The cool thing I will add too on the identification photography is that anyone can do it. So you don't have to be a professional photographer or anything like that to get an ID shot. If you're out on a tour or you're lucky enough to just be swimming around and you spot either your manta or a whale shark, you've got a camera handy, you can take that photo, upload it to different organisations around the country, and they'll be able to ID that animal for you, which is pretty cool.
I will say, before we go ahead, that's not blood, by the way. That's Manta Ray poo, and so that manta decided to take a poo as we were taking a photo of it. I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah, it's not blood. Don't panic.
But I suppose above all else, the most amazing thing about living and working where we do is you never know what you're going to see. So you never say never on the Ningaloo. Every day is different from the one before, and it's going to be different from the one after. Literally anything can pop up out there while you're on the water, which is the best part of the job. So here's a bit of an example of a few of the different things that I've come across during my time here.
Oh no.
Yeah. So the top left is a dugong. Pretty amazing creature to see. We are getting them around the Ningaloo at the moment, which is awesome. Next to that, we've got the orca. We don't see them that regularly here, but we have been lucky enough to see them quite a few times. We generally see them this time of the year as we get the humpback migration happening. We tend to get a couple of the resident orca pods come in out of the deeper water and start to hunt the humpback calves on the back of the reef, which is pretty incredible. All sorts of species of turtles. Sharks, obviously, like I said, again, it's one of the best places in the world to see different species of sharks. In the bottom left there is the tiger shark. We do see tiger sharks almost every day while we're out on the reef on the sand flat area. We are, again, lucky enough to get in with those guys, which is awesome. And then the one next to that is the grey reef shark. So just offshore from Coral Bay, we have a pretty incredible grey reef shark cleaning station. Anywhere from 1 to 40 or 50 sharks can be seen there. Generally during sort of January to February into March is when we see those big numbers of 40 to 50 plus sharks hanging around that cabbage coral there, which is pretty incredible. And then the last one, that's a pretty special one I had a couple of years ago of an ornate eagle ray. And there's only been, as far as I know, 50 or 60 recorded sightings of those guys worldwide. So that's definitely one I'll remember for quite a while.
Pretty jealous of that one. All right, so this is some of my photos from around the reef. So we'll start on the top left. It's a bit of a rare encounter, this one, but false killer whale from a massive pod of false killer whales that were coming through one day when we were on a humpback whale tour. And this guy broke off from the pod, and you could hear the clicks, or it almost penetrated you with its sound. Went straight through me. I heard it coming and looked to my side, and this big false killer whale was coming straight towards me. It was a bit of a heart in the mouth situation, but it was amazing to see, and I've never seen anything like that before in the water. So that was last year. Moving along a bit here, there's a photo of my partner swimming with a leopard shark there, which is leopard sharks are always very calm animals to photograph. Beautiful animals as well. We're quite lucky we do get to see them pop up on occasion here. They're not super common, but we do see them popping up a fair bit. So it's always quite nice to get an interaction with them. And then moving across again, this is a killer whale, and she's called Hook. This is probably one of my favorite experiences on the Ningaloo Reef. One day were lucky enough to watch one of the resident pods of orcas take down a bottlenose dolphin in front of a couple of our tour boats. And she's the matriarch female from that pod. And in my eyes, I think she's showing off after they've just taken down this dolphin. I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time for that photo. She spy hopped right in front of the boat, but you can see in her eyes, she looks pretty proud of herself there. And then in the bottom left corner, so it's the same photo, or same place where Sam's photo was from the cleaning station. As you can see, there's a grey reef shark in there, but we also have green sea turtles that visit that cleaning station as well. And we have a bit of a thing. We say that the turtles seem to dominate that area when they're there. The sharks aren't so keen on it. And then moving across one more, the minke whales are sort of running at the moment here. We don't see them that often either, but we have seen quite a few the past few days on the boats. This again was on a humpback whale tour, and these guys popped up and came and check us out. They're quite interested in the sounders on our big boats here. So this guy came up and had a very, very long swim with us, and very memorable. They're very curious and very beautiful, gentle animals. And then in the bottom right, that's a hammerhead shark. So we get 3 different species of hammerhead sharks here: scalloped, smooth, and great hammerheads. And this is a great hammerhead. This is from last year. It was a very glassy, flat day, and you could actually see the dorsal of this hammerhead swimming along on its side along the surface. I'm not sure how much time we've got, but I've got a little video here. Oh, no. Let me get to it. There it is. So this is a little video from that moment. As you can see, it's cruising in very, very slowly, and I didn't move at all with it at the end. I didn't quite expect it to come to life, but it actually had to water from my skin. I don't know, I wasn't quite freaked out a little bit. That's generally what it's like swimming with both sharks here on the Ningaloo Reef. Very often, we lost you now. There we are. All right, so moving on to some of our favourite experiences. Sorry about that, guys, bit of a technical error. I think Sam's going to talk about his favourite experience.
Guys, it's still on the video screen. Maybe it's just being slow on this end. That's such a cool video of the hammerhead.
Thank you. Oh, hang on, here we go. How's that? Is that back?
Perfect.
All right. For photographers, we're pretty technologically challenged. All right, go for it, Sam.
Here's another one. So this was a couple years ago. We were on a whale shark tour. Actually, we just swam with a whale shark in some nice blue water. And then actually, lucky enough, after that, we found an orca pod and followed the orcas for quite a while. And then even more amazingly, after that, on our way back to the inside of the reef, we came across this guy here, which is a leatherback turtle. Now, we do get a lot of turtles here on the reef, but a leatherback is incredibly rare. I only know of a handful of other people that have ever come remotely close to seeing one here on the Ningaloo. This day, I was lucky enough that this guy actually hung around for like 5 to 10 minutes while I swam with it. Initially, it had no idea I was there. I was following it along as it cruised through the water. After, again, about 10 minutes, it did realise I was there and swung back around and swam directly underneath me, which is how I was able to get this photo. But after that, I don't think it really wanted me there. It kind of descended to about 10 meters or so and sort of was looking at me. And then last thing I remember, it just basically launched itself at me, took my legs out and did a massive breach. And I went in the air with it and breached with the leatherback, which is pretty crazy. So that's definitely something I won't be forgetting in a hurry. It was pretty awesome. There you go.
All right, so this is probably my favourite experience. There's been a few, but this is probably the standout, and this happened just before everything shut down for the year here. It was the 13th of March, and we were out on a whale shark tour. We just swam with a whale shark. I think on that day we actually struggled to get a very good swim at the start with the whale shark because it was moving so fast. But we finished off the swim. We're all very happy. And we started heading back to Coral Bay, and the pilot called through a bait ball. And we love our bait balls here on the Ningaloo Reef. We do get quite a lot of them. We're very fortunate, but not very often do we get whale sharks feeding on them. So the skipper didn't say too much when we hopped in, but I hopped in with my partner at the time, and she had my back luckily, which allowed me to film this and photograph this. But as you can see from the photo, there's giant trevally down there in the bottom right. And there's actually 2 whale sharks. You can see that whale shark popping through. But there was actually 4 whale sharks in total. And this particular whale shark at the front is about 10 meters long. So you can imagine how big that bait ball is there, about the size of a double-decker bus for those guys in the UK. But one of my favorite things about it was the wedge-tail shearwaters, which are those birds at the top there. At times that bait ball was down, 5 to 6 meters, and these birds were coming down and swimming and then swimming back up with fish in their mouth. And there was so much going on in there. It was hard enough for us to photograph it without getting buzzed by sharks from underneath. We had bull sharks and spinner sharks and dusky whalers, and there's hundreds of sharks everywhere. And these birds are swimming down from the surface and grabbing their feed as well, which I absolutely love. I'm not sure how we're doing for time. I'm a bit nervous to try and share a video again, but we'll give it a go. So no one's actually seen this video except for the guys up here, and Roger Munn's had a look at it for me as well. But I'll show you a little bit of what actually went down that day. So as you can see, big whale sharks, all the birds swimming down as well. It's very chaotic in there. It's big spinner coming through. Look how far down these birds are swimming. There's this trevally everywhere. And one more, this big whale shark comes in here and has a big gulp. So no one's seen that, so don't tell anyone I showed you, all right? Let me go back to the other one. This one. We did it. All right. So I'm not sure how much time we've used here, guys, but we do really want to touch on using photography as a conservation tool. It's something that's pretty close to Sam and I's hearts. Obviously, we're very lucky on the Ningaloo Reef that it's such a beautiful environment, and we can take photos of all these things and show people what's here, and it's almost like a benchmark for the rest of the world in a way. Obviously, as you guys know, it's not like that everywhere, and a lot of places do need protecting, but there's a lot that you can do as well. Like us, we do ID photography, which definitely contributes to the scientific world and finding those areas where these megafauna and smaller animals are gathering, so we can protect those areas further. And you don't have to have the best camera in the world to do that. You don't have to have 1 million followers on the gram. You can certainly do it, and everyone has a voice, and don't underestimate how big your voice can be. And we started out just a couple of friends that love diving and love taking photos, and very quickly our audience has grown, and we're very small fish in the pond, and there's a lot of people out there that are doing good. If you guys love what you do, you don't have to protect the Ningaloo Reef. You can protect the reserve across the road from your house or your local beach. But yeah, just get out there and do what you can, and don't underestimate the power that a photo can have. But yeah, thank you all very much for listening. I'm sorry about that little stuff up, but I hope you guys enjoyed the talk. Thanks for having us. And if you want to check out more of our stuff, there's our Instagram feeds there. Feel free to jump online and have a bit of a look. But yeah, thanks for listening. And if there's any questions, feel free to fire away.
Guys, thank you so much. That video was insane. I can't believe it. Oh my God.
I didn't know.
That was amazing. I'm blown away. Are you guys going to do anything with that video? Like give it to any TV shows or?
We've talked. I think Roger gave me a bit of advice on things, but yeah, we'll see how we go. I've held it pretty close to my chest for now, but we'll see what in the future.
Well, thanks for sharing it with us. That was
no worries.
Unbelievable. All right, we had one question actually about the video. It's from someone called Davina, and they said this video is amazing, and they want you to explain a bit more about what happens. Do the birds and sharks feed on the bait until they've all been eaten?
Hi, Davina. So basically, we don't know a whole lot about the bait balls. From a scientific side of things, they're very hard to predict when they're going to happen. But basically, this is a whole load of bait fish that's been pushed up to the surface, usually by the faster fish in the water, like tuna, and it gets scored into a massive ball, and then the birds pick up on it. And you see these big groups of shearwater sitting out on the water waiting for these things to pop up. It's what's known as a boil up, some people, because it looks like the surface of the water is boiling. And yeah, pretty much most of these, I've seen some of them make it back down to the depths, but most of them get pushed to the surface, particularly when the whale sharks and the bigger sharks get involved. They don't usually come out very good at the end, unfortunately, for the bait fish.
Yeah, I had a few experiences when I was there with Jake and Elle and everyone with the bait balls, and yeah, it was insane. I've never seen so many sharks in my life. Coolest place ever. Okay, thanks. We've had loads of cool questions come through, so thanks everyone for asking. All right, we had one from Sama. Sama said, what do you think is the hardest or most challenging part of your jobs?
The first question.
If there's anything.
Yeah. Oh God, I don't know. I don't want to say nothing because surely there's something. Oh man, honestly, like without sounding pathetic, getting into cold water early in the morning. Yeah,
I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, when I say cold water, it's like 25 degrees Celsius. It's not cold at all. But look, sometimes when we have to spot, say, a Manta Ray, they can be moving quite fast.
Yeah.
So the boat and the customers and that are relying on us to stay with that Manta Ray or that whale shark. So sometimes you're literally swimming flat out for nearly an hour just to stay with this animal, just to make sure everyone can get a look at it. And
in cold water as well.
Yeah. And I love sharks, and like, I don't want to say I'm scared of them, but I have a healthy respect. And some days we are sort of out there on our own in the open ocean, waiting for the boat to pick us up. And sometimes there is
your mind wanders.
Jaws theme song goes to your head, and so that sometimes that can be a bit nerve wracking. But
yeah,
I mean, saying that though, we've had that much time in the water, and we do come across sharks that are a little bit more curious than other sharks, but I mean, we've never witnessed anybody getting hurt, or we've never come close to really getting hurt, which is down to the sharks really. At the end of the day, we're in their home, in their environment. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We had a comment from Amelia. She said 25 degrees, that's a bath. Tries 12 degrees in Africa. I'm on your guys' side. I'm awful. I came from the Maldives and it was like 22 degrees when I arrived in Coral Bay, and I was like, this is so cold. I stay in water.
They call me a bit of a princess up here, but I think you're on your own there.
Okay, cool. We've had a couple questions. One from Louis, who asked what advice you'd give to a student who's never scuba dived, but who would really like to meet this kind of fauna, these kind of animals.
Honestly, a lot of the stuff we see here is done without scuba. So the Ningaloo itself, as I mentioned earlier on, is a fringing reef, so it's quite shallow. It's not until you get on the outer reef, so out where we find the whale sharks, that you get in deeper water. But even the whale sharks themselves are generally right at the surface. So although Tom and I are both dive masters and we do quite a bit of diving, as far as our job is concerned, we do very little diving at all. All the photos that you see throughout the seminar, they were all done just free diving or snorkeling, and all with the natural light from the sun. So there's no strobes or anything going on because we're super deep in the water. It's all very shallow water stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the diving aspect. You can definitely get a lot of photos and see a lot of amazing wildlife like what we've shown you just at the very surface of the water, which is pretty cool.
When everything opens back up, come and visit us. We'd love to have you up here as well, anywhere on the Ningaloo Reef, but Coral Bay is pretty special. So the best way to see most of these things is on a tour, and come and visit.
Yeah, agreed. Go there. Put it first on your bucket list. Yeah, there's amazing snorkeling off the beach as well. There's that, I don't know, what do you guys call it? Is it called the lavender patch?
Yeah.
There's like all purple corals, and I was just like shocked by how much you can see just in shallow water. And Yeah, in some places it would even be hard to dive because it's so shallow.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, you don't really need to dive all that much.
Okay, cool. We have a kind of related one from Lily. Hi, Lily. She says, do you have any tips for amateur photographers to get the most out of underwater photos?
Basically, just keep trying, keep going, keep getting involved. I started out with a Canon G11 power shot, a very basic camera that I bought off a freediving instructor, and it was all scratched on the lens, but I had a little housing for it. And if you love what you're doing, just keep getting out there, keep trying. Look at other people's photos as well. Always feel free to message us on Instagram if you need any advice. I know a lot of people do reach out as well. But learning how to color grade is probably what will transform your photos the most. So white balance is a massive thing when it comes to underwater photography, all photography, but particularly underwater photography. So if you want to transform your photos, yeah, editing is a massive part of that, as well as capturing the image itself.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. And another one from Sarah, who's asking what camera you guys use.
I use a Nikon D810 in an Aquatech housing, and
I'm using a Canon 5D Mark III in, again, an Aquatech housing.
Okay, cool. Hopefully that's helpful. Right, we have so many. I don't know where to start. Okay, we have one from Jake. Jake, hi Jake. Jake saying, loved the talk. Have you guys ever seen the famous Manta Ray Freckles? And I've heard about Freckles.
We have. We've seen her quite a bit. She's like Isabel, like we showed you before. She's one of the big older females that we get around here. Funnily enough, there's another photographer in town called Jake. He had quite an incredible experience with her about a year ago. I don't really know the specifics of it, so you'd have to get on Google, I suppose, and have a look at it. But I think she had a hook embedded in her, and he was lucky enough to get in the water with her, and he had a bit of a I don't know what to call it, experience, moment where he was able to basically calm that manta ray right down and remove the hook from her, and it was on the news and all sorts of stuff. It's a pretty amazing thing to see. If you get on Google, I'm sure it's on there somewhere. You'll be able to have a look at it.
It shows the magic of manta rays and Jake as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Jake.
Yeah, that is an amazing video. Amazing. Okay, we have one from Lila. Hi, Lila. She says, that was amazing. Awesome, guys. So is there any possibilities that these three big mammals would migrate around Australia?
So you're talking about the whale sharks, mantas,
yeah,
and humpback, I'm assuming. So the humpbacks, of those three, are the only ones that truly migrate. So they migrate from Antarctica, where they spend the summer, and then make their way up, as Tom said, north of the Ningaloo in an area called the Kimberley, where they give birth and mate. The whale sharks themselves don't necessarily migrate to the Ningaloo, they aggregate here. So again, as Tom said, we can see them here all year round. They don't migrate away from the area. There has been a lot of tagging done on the whale sharks here. Some have stayed right here on the Ningaloo, some have ventured out into the middle of the Indian Ocean, some up north into the Coral Sea, into the Coral Triangle. So they kind of just go wherever they want. And then when we have the coral spawning here around March, there's an abundance of food, and they tend to aggregate back here throughout that time of the year. And the manta rays, as I said, they don't migrate away either. Those guys hang around here all year round, so we're lucky enough to see them almost every day, which is pretty cool.
But you do get all of those animals on the east coast of Australia as well. So I think they've even had whale sharks in Sydney Harbour before, I've been told. But you can see all those animals all along the east coast too, but they don't leave here and move around, luckily for us.
Okay, cool. Thanks. We had a webinar maybe 2 weeks ago with Asia of Project Manta Australia as well, and she's talking about specifically the mantas, more on the east coast, but all around Australia. So check that out, anyone who's interested in Aussie mantas. I saw a video maybe last year of whale sharks mating from a plane. Was that confirmed that they were mating in that video?
Yeah, actually, we had a bit of a seminar here the the other night from Mark Meekham, who's one of the whale shark researchers up here, and he was talking about those photos. So yeah, that's definitely what they think was happening, and it, from what I've heard, is the first time that's ever been recorded anywhere in the world. So I don't know if you haven't seen the photos. It's from a plane. There was one of the pilots that does the tours up here was out flying around and saw this smaller whale shark swimming along on the surface, and then underneath it was the big white outline of a large male whale shark that was actually turned upside down, and what was believed to be mating with that female whale shark. And like I said, that's the first time anyone's ever seen it apparently, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, that was an unreal video. It seems like all the magic happens on Ningaloo. Okay, we've had a couple from Alex. Alex asking if guests can swim with tiger sharks or orcas.
No, well, and some tours they can swim with tiger sharks here. We don't fully encourage it over here, but just because tiger sharks are an apex predator, we have to spend a bit of time looking at them and understanding them. Occasionally, they do put the photographers in to take photos of the tiger sharks, just to show the customers that they're not a man-eating beast. There is one particular tour that does attempt to swim with them occasionally, but it's always given on the right tiger shark, so it has to be the right animal. And orcas, sadly, no, we can't swim with them here. I'm not sure what it would be like. I've never swum with an orca before, but yeah, we can't. They're protected under the Marine Mammal Act over here, so we're not allowed to swim with them.
Okay, cool, thanks. And how do you keep the tourist interactions in Coral Bay sort of eco-friendly and respectful? What kind of practices are in place?
Yeah, well, there's lots of, particularly with whale sharks, there's legislation in place to protect them. So under all the contracts that we do run on here, we have to follow strict legislation. So staying 4 meters from a whale shark, from the tail, 3 meters from the sides. And there's no actual law for manta rays yet. Hopefully that will change. But yeah, we pretty much try to preach the same thing with manta rays here too. We're very strict. It's all about speaking with the customers and trying to educate them as much as you can. Obviously, these are wild animals. They don't necessarily want to swim with us, but when they do give us that time, we have to remain as respectful as we can. I will say that even when we take our ID shots and things, it's always a calculated thing. We don't just force the manta ray to get a photo with us. We swim with them for a long time first and make sure that they're okay with our presence, and then we try and get a photo when we can.
Yeah, I thought it was one of the best places I've ever been, if not the best, for sustainable tourism. The ways that all the operators kind of talk to each other and make sure that they're respecting the same guidelines most of the time was pretty inspiring and should be used elsewhere as well. I know in the Maldives we have big issues with whale shark swims with like 100, 200 people on one whale shark, loads of boats. It's horrible. So we need something like you guys have in place. Yeah. Okay, Zoe is asking, when is the best month to visit?
May.
We call it Magic May.
Yeah. Sort of April, May, even now in June. I only say June because it's still whale shark season here now, but we're also seeing the humpback whales. So, I think from what I've heard, it's one of the only places in the world where you've got the opportunity to potentially see a manta ray, a whale shark, and a humpback whale all in the same day. That's not to say don't come any other time of the year, but I think as far as your opportunity to see some of these animals and get good weather, nice calm seas while you're doing it, that April, May, June period's a pretty good time to come. Yeah.
Okay, thanks guys. I've been seeing a lot on social media over the last 6 months or so about how we need to protect the Ningaloo because there's some people wanting to explore it for oil drilling. Is that right? What's going on with that?
So they're actually the Exmouth Gulf. You might have seen from one of our slides. I won't try and get back there now, but for one of our slides up the top of the Cape of Exmouth there, Sam, if you want to go there, is the Gulf of Exmouth, and they're looking to industrialise everybody. looking to industrialise the Gulf. And so what they're trying to do is they want to create a pipe manufacturing plant there for the gas plants. So in ways, the Exmouth community wants that there because they want to create jobs. So as you can see here on the screen, that's the Exmouth Gulf where my mouse is pointing. And they want to manufacture the plant just around here in a place called Learmonth. And basically that Gulf there is a breeding ground for so many parts that are integral to the reef. In particular, you get sharks there, baby sharks, dugongs, turtles, Manta Rays as well congregate in there, and humpback whales too. So it's a very, very important part for the Ningaloo Reef and for anything else that lives inside it. And so if they do start manufacturing gas lines there and dragging them out across the seabed, across the seagrass, it could damage soft coral. We don't really know what the effects will be. I know there's a lot of scientists involved at the moment and they're trying to, or pretty much proving what's going to happen. But the biggest question mark is we don't know what's going to happen if you do put industrialization in that part of the world. And plus, it's a bit of an eyesore as you fly into Exmouth to come visit the Ningaloo Reef. The first thing most of these people are going to see is a gas pipeline manufacturing plant. So it's still it's gone to the EPA for a decision. So we're not really sure what's going on with that at the moment. But as of November last year, there was 50,000 petitions against it. So if anybody wants to check that out, do head to Protect Ningaloo. They do have an Instagram and a website as well. So head to there and check that out because we certainly would love as many signatures as we can to stop that from happening up here.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing. Okay, another question. Why is the Ningaloo so special? I mean, in a lot of places in the world, the coral's dying from coral bleaching, there's pollution, there's issues to the reef. Why do you get so many animals on this reef?
I think, again, as Tom touched on at the start of the seminar, we're literally in the middle of nowhere. So if you compare it to, say, the Great Barrier Reef on the east coast, not only is it a large reef, but it's on a way more populated area of the Australian continent. So there's a lot more happening there industry-wise, tourism-wise. There's just a lot more happening. So they get a lot of eutrophication, different things like that happening on the reef that we just don't get over here because there's nothing here. So as Tom said, the nearest capital city or major city is about 1,300 kilometres away. So yeah, we just don't see a lot of the impacts that you see on reefs that are in more built up urbanised areas. Like as far as the coral bleaching goes, we're just over the Tropic of Capricorn. So we don't really get that super warm water that you see further north that's affecting like the Great Barrier Reef. Down where we are, we're getting that cool current that comes up through the Ningaloo current, keeps the water nice and cool, and we don't really see that mass coral bleaching like you might see on the East Coast.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we have one from Emily. She said, have you named any mantas after yourselves? Sam, Tom, Quokka.
Let's go.
I never have, no.
Not after myself. I named after my nan.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but not myself.
Okay, and do you get to name a manta if you're the first one to see it in Coral Bay?
You do, yeah. I mean,
it's up to Fraser.
It's up to Fraser, who runs Project Manta, and Vic. Shout out to you guys for all your hard work as well. But yeah, sometimes Vic will fire us one through and say, look, this one hasn't been named yet. We've co-named a couple of them as well. It's always nice when you get that message to name your own manta, because if they pop up again and you see them, you're like, hey, I remember you.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Okay. Any more questions? We've had a question from Cassie. Thank you, Cassie. She says, thanks for the talk. She has a master's in natural sciences, but she's had 2 years out of academia, and she's recently decided to focus back on marine biology and conservation, but she's unsure where to start. And she's asking all of us whether we think she should get more practical experience by volunteering and doing internships or going into a PhD. So I don't know if, Sam, did you study marine biology? I think you did.
Yeah, I did my undergrad in marine biology back on the east coast of Australia. I never went down the whole honours, masters, PhD route. I kind of ended up in the tourism industry. Yeah, I mean, the other thing I can say on that is you can either go either way. If you want to go the research way and do your PhD and do that, then that's the way to go. But if you want to, for me, it was just to be outdoors and out there in the ocean and seeing it every day that drew me to the tourism side. And you get to meet so many incredible people every day out here on the reef from all over the world. So that was a big draw card for me, as opposed to going down the research path.
Yeah, I'd say the same. If you do a PhD, then you should really be wanting to get into sort of academia or research, and that's awesome, but you might have less time in the field. So it's up to you. Both would be perfect if you could have two parallel universes. Okay, I think we'll leave it there for now, but thank you so much, guys. That was an amazing talk. You guys have the most amazing pictures and lives, and I'm very jealous. But yeah, have a great week. I hope you see loads of cool stuff.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for coming on. All right, and thanks to everyone for watching. I'll just share my screen. We have a few more webinars coming up next week. We have one on the 15th at 11 a.m. BST with Sarah Lewis, who runs our Indonesia project. She founded the Manta Project Indonesia. So she's going to be talking about how we can conserve manta rays there, where they are heavily fished. Then we have one on the 17th. That's with Beth from the Maldives project and Betty, who founded the Mobula project Indonesia, and they're going to be chatting about the contrast between the two projects and the different ways that we can research manta rays and Mobula rays. On the 18th at 9 a.m. BST, so quite an early one for anyone in the UK, we have Mark Erdeman, who is part of Conservation International, and he's going to be talking about tagging and the benefits and limitations of tagging manta rays and other animals. So I think that's going to be a really interesting one. As always, you can follow us on our social media and check out our website for all our webinars and more information about manta and devil rays and how you can support manta research and conservation. And make sure you follow the guys on Ocean Collective Media as well. One of the best ways you can support Manta Trust is by joining the Cyclone. It's a members only hub where we share all of our latest videos and research, and any money raised will go towards manta research and conservation. Okay, I'll see some of you guys on Monday, I hope. And thanks again to Sam and Tom. Thanks, guys.
See you later. See ya.
Bye.